Marriott Hotel in Melrose Arch. This is where we are for the inaugural Women in Cricket focus discussion. And so many things have happened in women's cricket with the development of, the game since the early 2000s, the 90s, in fact, to where it's at the moment. And no better people to be able to speak about the evolution of cricket with former captain of the Proteas, Linda Olivier, and Dinesha Devanarain, who both played for the Proteas. Nono Pongola is also alongside me to try and speak about this whole big, important issue, which is the development of women's cricket. Linda, thanks for your time. Dinesha, thanks for your time as well. And I'm going to start with you, Linda. I mean, you were one of the first captains of a women's cricket side nationally in the country. And what have you seen since the days when you played to where cricket is now in the women's space?
Yeah, I think the progress has been immense. And I'm just talking in terms of pathways, I'm talking in terms of funding, I'm talking in terms of developing cricketing skills, thanks to the coaches that are there now looking after the players. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. I think we need to capitalize and we need to be directed and focused on what it is that we want to achieve. The talent is certainly there, and I think, as Claire said, we've just scratched the tip of the iceberg of where we can go.
I'm more interested about the bats since your time. I mean, the bats have developed so much.
Look, the technology is with anything, even in golf. Technology changes everything. When we looked at equipment when I started, you got a short handle bat, and that's what you got. So I used to go back to the equipment manufacturer, and at that time I was fortunate to have a sponsorship from Kookaburra, and I said to them, this bat is a little bit heavy, you need to shave off some wood, because I think the bats would weigh about 2.6, 2.7. I said, I need about 2.3, so can you please shave it off? Which also posed a challenge because you didn't want to disrupt the balance of the bat, and but no, technology has certainly changed. There's no question about that. If you look at the power that the players hit the ball with these days, I mean, we were always astounded when we played against Australia, New Zealand, as to how hard they hit the ball. We were like, what is their secret? So definitely, I think there's, if I look at Kookaburra, they've got if I can say, a gender-neutral approach now. So they don't talk about men's and boys' bats anymore. They're talking about adult and youth bats now. But the technology certainly changed. There's no question about that. Seems to be easier to hit sixes these days than in our days. So I'm not sure where we missed the trick.
I think Coach Dinesha has also got probably a good story to talk about with her bat, earlier bats. Probably toothpick to...
I'll actually tell you a story about how it started, yes.
Well, what was your first bat, actually? I'm really interested in that.
It was, it was definitely homemade. I promise you, if I invested in that brand, it would have taken off the markets now. But jokingly enough, there was obviously a carpenter next door, and I was starting out cricket, in short. So I said, this thing that they hit the ball with, please carve me out one like that there. It was a proper plank, just shaped as a bat on the top. And all I can remember, the first time I held it, all the splinters in your fingers. But I swear, once that cricket, like, the fact that you're just trying to understand the game and you really want to hit this ball further than the boys, or you want to prove a point, whatever it may be, those splinters actually became war scars, for where you were headed in life. And but that's where it started. Unfortunately, I couldn't make my debut with that bat. I think after the first hard ball, it would have been into... I think it would have affected the wicketkeeper's eyes as well into pieces. But it's really lovely, obviously, to hear Linda's perspective on how the game has changed. And obviously, I was in that transition where we weren't professionalized, and then I got a professional contract, and then I just exited the system. So I was in that phase where I did get a contract for 2 years, and then... Dinesha, what are you doing with your life? It's still a salary that you can't sort of have for a family. I made the decision, not to follow through with my degrees. Mom's watching.
Send her back to school.
And then stuck with coaching, and obviously that paid off for me. But yeah, I see what the girls are just getting from not only a financial point of view, just in terms of commercial rights, the projects that they're involved with. I mean, sponsored cars, all of that there. I mean, that was definitely chalk and cheese when I had my contract. So, you know what? Just a lot of gratefulness to see that South African women's cricket is where it is now at the moment.
We talk a lot. I mean, we heard inside the importance of 2013 when 6 contracts officially, introduced, when now it was becoming a career or pathway that girls and women can take in South Africa. I mean, for you just mentioned it a little bit in terms of that transition from amateur to professional. What are the key milestones, I guess, in that period that you thought, cricket is going in the right direction?
Yeah, I think the fact that we got paid for it, isn't it? And look, like I said, it wasn't much, but I mean, from getting nothing to that, you're like, okay, I think I've got to make better decisions here, isn't it? I can't carry on doing what I was supposed to do all the time and still earn a salary. That's not right. So what I think it did, just for me personally, was I started understanding what professionalism is. I mean, I can't go eat the things I want to eat now, You can't do the things you were doing before, unfortunately. And that's just the money thing. It's sort of your job. You're getting paid to be an athlete. You've got to look like an athlete, you've got to talk like an athlete, and you've got to be a custodian of that there. So when all of this was happening, I mean, I still get the question asked a lot, like, why did you retire so early? But obviously mine was like a personal decision. I felt that coaching was giving me a lot more purpose. But I definitely knew that there was still an investment in the sport, regardless if you're a player or not. Because, I mean, the next question is, you got 2 degrees, what are you doing with coaching? Like, are you normal? You should be working in a bank or one of those firm companies. And, like...
Do you imagine yourself sitting behind a desk?
Oh, I tried it. I did an internship for one of the banks, and lucky it was actually next to a cricket field.
So you had both the best worlds.
So actually it was that branch that made me change into coaching, because I just, like, it was good, it was nice, but it just didn't fuel me. But yeah, I think just when that transition happened, it was like, oh, something's happening here. This is not a short-term thing. This is not something that they're going to introduce for a year or two. And that's just the regime of women, actually, not just in sport. But I think the regime of women, of just their empowering, and we know that there's causes that goes with women, whether it's GBV, whether it's in sport, whether it's in the corporate world. It was just something that was happening, and no one could explain why it was happening. And I just wanted to be a part of it. So I'm glad I got to experience the long dresses, plain clothing, my blazers that was a long coat. I'm glad I got to experience that. I'm glad that we never got paid. When I'm saying I'm glad, I mean I could experience what it is to just play for pure passion, resilience, Maybe this day and age, maybe a youngster might not know what that is, because of what they have available. So I'm glad I got that opportunity to even have a contract and know what that's like. And then the retirement phase, and I'm obviously involved in coaching. And if I look back, I do not regret not one single decision as I sit here today.
Linda, we heard a lot of testimonies from people like Nolu, who played when there was not even a thought of professionalization of the sport. What were some of your challenges that you went through that maybe someone like Laura Wolfart might not really understand because of the era that they are playing in?
Yeah, look, obviously because of our country's history, I probably grew up in a more privileged environment. So I was, my father was a big sports person. My brother was very good at sport. So that's where I started playing cricket. So, I played under 11 and under 13 cricket with the boys because there were no girls' teams. And then I went to high school, started playing, under 14 cricket. And then when I had to go to under 16 cricket, my dad said to me, look, I think we need to put on the brakes now because you're going to get injured. Purely just because of the physical strength and differences between boys and girls. So then I ended up, playing golf. Spent quite a bit of time overseas, came back, and then they started indoor cricket, and then Conrad Hunt came, so got back into the cricket circles. But, even at that time, as I said, funding was a problem. Well, not a problem, it was a challenge. Let's call it a challenge. So, you look at clothing, you look at access to training facilities, you look at access to a bowling machine, access to bowling machine balls to go and train. I remember at that time I was playing at the Val Triangle Technicon.
Yeah.
And
Where's that
then-
now?
Vereniging
Oh,
van der Bijl
yeah,
Park.
yeah.
So we were fortunate to get a bowling machine there
Yeah.
from one of the sponsors. So I would go into town. I would get somebody that would be willing, obviously at a fee,
Yeah.
and I would go and spend hours in the net,
Yeah.
get somebody to feed balls, and so access to equipment. We struggled. We couldn't get access to gym facilities
Yeah.
because that was really there for the men.
Yeah.
So we had our challenges, but I said, and as Dinesha also mentioned, your passion that you have for the game, the love that you have for the game, that's why you really played it, not for the money at the time.
Yeah.
I actually remember having to go on tour to Australia and New Zealand, where I actually made the decision to sell some of my retirement annuities.
Yo.
Because I said, I want to go and tour. I might never get the opportunity again.
Yeah.
So probably now that you get to an older age, you think,
You're
gee,
like,
that
no,
was not the wisest
no.
decision. But at the time it was, and I wouldn't change that
Yeah.
decision for anything, because the experience that you gain and the people that you meet, you can't put any monetary value on that. So it's you have your challenges. I remember actually the first game I had to go and play. I had
Yeah.
my little white shorts, my white shirt, my boots on, and typical Free State weather. It was bright sunshine in the morning. Then the clouds start gathering at 12 o'clock, and by 2 o'clock it was absolutely hosing down. And I was ready to go and play my first cricket game, and my dad said to me, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the game rained out.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the disappointment.
Yeah.
Then come Christmas time and you get a cricket ball for Christmas, and
Yeah.
you think, wow, this is the
Greatest
greatest gift.
present. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was all about the passion for the game and the love, for the game, and
Yeah.
obviously what the game teaches you. You have to learn to deal with success. You have to learn to deal with failure.
Yeah.
Although even if you in your playing days and you fail, then it's not so funny and it's not so nice. But that's one of the things that sport teach you in life. You have to be able to deal with both of those aspects.
Yeah.
Coach, I mean, we often speak about support systems, access. I mean, we know already from a men's side of things how, especially from your townships, how difficult that's been. But in terms of now the women's game, where we've seen, I mean, you've played in the early parts of how's that gone by in the past years, where you started as an amateur player to some professionalism, and obviously now from a coaching point of view, how has that developed over time?
Yeah, look, I must give credit to Cricket South Africa in the sense of the structures that were put in place. If I think back of when I played cricket, it was provincial cricket, so there was sort of like a club cricket, but there was no age limit.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was 14,
Yeah.
and the oldest player there was 36,
Sure.
and we had to play. That's club cricket. And unfortunately, you only get scouted at club cricket, So we played, and fortunately, KZN had under 60 or under 19 trials. I was still in primary school at the time. Fortunately, I made the squad, but like I said, like that selections, you'll probably get about 40 to 50 girls. Like now, it's massive, right? And then obviously from there, you do well for KZN under 19. You get selected for KZN women, and then selectors come and view you. We didn't have links and stuff.
Yeah.
No one knew about you.
Pitch vision.
Nothing. So you better hope you. Not even. So you there at Kingsmead, you stand at the top of your run. The selectors are there today. Everyone spoke about it. There's 5 of them sitting. You're like, if you mess this up, when's the chance you're going to come here again? So it was like that.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I picked up 8 that game, and then that's how you got scouted. Whereas now, like, things are completely different. Just from a technological advancement, just access to where we can see players. The other thing that I love is the initiative of the hubs.
Sure.
I mean, that is access.
Yeah.
That is access. Which areas are we not getting in the country? That's a big one.
Yeah.
And it's about opportunity now. So it's not about equality now. It's about opportunity now. Is that, hubs, they play, I think, 20 to 25 games a year. There is a stat, but I do know our hubs, they facilitate our under 19 school cricket by 80% comes from the hubs. Our selected squad, SA under 19, SA fully school or fully squad that gets selected, that's about 70% comes from a hub. You know, so that's access, you know. And the fact that obviously I'm speaking here as a high performance coach, this job wasn't around 4 years ago. So, I mean, those are improvements in terms of access. Is there a pipeline? Are we taking care of our pipeline? And I think it shows that, you know, a few girls made their debuts from under 19 setup into the Proteas setup. So I do think we're in a healthy space, and I'll definitely give credit to our administrators at Cricket South Africa, you know, those that had the vision to see this through. So it's nice to see the products of it. Yeah.
Final question for you, Linda, and it's an important one because, I mean, we speak to yourself and Dinesha and a lot of other former players. How important is your role in today's professional market in making sure that, you know, there are testimonies, there are people who have gone through the processes of, you know, amateur, semi-professional to professional, still involved in the game to be able to guide the new generation per se?
Look, from a lessons learned perspective and the fact, you know, that they shouldn't take the opportunities for granted, I think we can, you know, certainly serve as a reminder of that. And in terms of cricketing skills, as I said, I think our generation probably can't contribute as much, but that's where the current players are so important and the coaches, because we've got to leave the cricketing teams and the structures in a better space than they are now. So that knowledge sharing and giving back to the game, I think, is crucial. The game has just changed so much, and we haven't been involved in the game for so long that I think we can probably, you know, more from maybe from a mental health perspective, a holistic approach, you know, how important is physical training. You know, now you have to look at diet, you have to look at mental health, you have to look at the psychology of the players. So there's a lot of things that come into play now with the professionalization. So I think there are former players that would be happy to be involved and to contribute. I think when we stopped playing, there just weren't any opportunities. You know, if you, I was involved in some umpiring, selection, and those type of things. But, you know, it's very limited because it didn't give you an opportunity for a full-time career. So at some stage you had to make the decision and say, look, this is not feasible in the long term. I need to go actually and work where I can earn some money. So, and that's changing now, you know, with the contracts and the professionalization. And I'm hoping there is going to be more financial support, you know, to bring in more administrators and to bring more people into the game that will, you know, provide the future generations with those opportunities. Because I think it's important that they stay in the game going forward and give back, especially from a knowledge perspective.
Olivier, thank you very much for your time. Dinesha, Devanarain, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we can have a lot more of these discussions and obviously pave a great future for women's cricket. I mean, it's a brilliant space, and there's so much talent to be able to still tap into to make our national teams, our junior provincial teams, our senior provincial teams very strong going into the future. So thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.